to the Get a Hold of Yourself podcast. I'm Brooke and I'm going to be your host. Today we'll be chatting about makeup, and I'm here with some fellow GITA makeup connoisseurs.
Hi, my name is Sadaf. I am on the Academics and Outreach team here at GITA.
Hi, my name is Kloe. I'm also on the Academics and Outreach team here at GITA.
And I'm Netty, and I'm Associate Director here at GITA, and I also love makeup, so thank you for having us here today, Brooke.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today, guys. I'm super excited. First thing I want to ask is, what does makeup expression mean to you, and, how's that impacted you?
For me, the first thing I thought of when I read that question was, this whole, Mulan moment is what I call it with my makeup. I used to wear a lot in high school, and one day I came back home and kind of cleaned one half of my face, and I felt so ugly when I removed my makeup. And so for me, makeup expression turned into something that made me feel like I was enhancing my own features instead of hiding things that I was bullied for, or kind of making myself feel like I had to please other people with my appearance.
Mm-hmm.
I like what you said about using makeup as hiding. Is that what you said?
Kind of enhancing.
Enhancing.
Yeah.
Well, I started wearing makeup in middle school, and the very first thing I started wearing was foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I would just wear plain foundation, and that was it.
Same.
Just looked like this little orange Dorito walking around. But that was because I was so insecure about my skin, and I was having breakouts, and so I just wanted to hide. I just wanted to hide myself, and I feel like we all go through the heavy phase of makeup where you're just caking it on and it's just so heavy. And I definitely had that phase. I had the hella thick eyebrows that looked like triangles. I had my colorful moment where I was trying to do all the colorful eyeshadows and all of that. But definitely I didn't feel, I kind of didn't feel like myself. Mm-hmm. I just kind of felt like I was creating this character that would be comfortable enough to walk around school,
putting on a literal mask.
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely relate to that. I used to wear heavy foundation every single day on high school, and the very thick eyebrows.
Yep.
At first I just started with mascara because that's all my mom said I needed.
Mm-hmm.
But I dabbled more by myself, try to teach myself. But in some ways it's kind of creative for me. I don't do a lot of heavy makeup like I did now, but at home I like to do some clown makeup just for fun. It's super creative for me, but yeah, it's just another art medium, I think, for me personally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love what you said off about foundation and walking around like an orange Dorito in high school. That was really, it was middle school for me, was the first time I started playing around with foundation too. Mm-hmm. And I have this really distinct memory of being in my mom's bathroom and picking up what I thought was powder, and it was talc. You know what I mean? It's it comes in a little kind of compartment with I don't know what it's called, it was a thing that almost looked like a duster, it had feathers at the end of it sort of. And you dip it, and I think it's just talc to keep your body soft or something. It was white, and I was like, oh, this is probably what people put on their face. So I have this distinct memory of putting on basically white powder on my face. And I went to school that way, actually, and definitely got made fun of. Definitely for reasons of why are you wearing white powder on your face, but also as a brown kid to just have this
white cast.
And then when I got to high school, I would hide the fact that I wore makeup because I was not allowed to wear it by my family. And it wasn't until maybe my junior year in high school that my mom was like, okay, you can wear eyeliner. And that is the birth of Netty and Wings, basically. It was junior year in high school. and all of my cousins were like cholas and stuff, so they had like, their massive hair and their massive wings, the triangle, like eyeliner, like except it was thin, like
Right.
pencil, and like the dark pencil lip
Yep.
with like the gloss, the lip gloss.
Yep.
And sometimes when my mom would drop me off to get babysat by my older cousins and stuff, they would like do my makeup. And that's kind of like how I learned how to do wings. And so since then, wings have been a little bit of like an armor for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally felt that.
When I don't wear my wings to work, y'all, I'm like not good.
I feel vulnerable.
I feel vulnerable and exposed.
Yeah. I really like that part that you said, like kind of about as a brown kid, as somebody of color. I know for me, I really struggled with the aspect of I don't know, like feeling like I'm allowed to express myself that way, because I feel like there was always something around like, if you have lighter skin, you can put more color on it with the reds and the blues and the art form of everything. And like the foundation, I feel like the foundation aspect really has not been brought to light until recent years of like having more shades available for people of color in a lot of different brands. Like that's been really pushed heavily lately. I mean, even on video games, like just having representation of skin colors that are different from just, what other people are used to and cater towards.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think back to some of the first powder I ever used, like CoverGirl or foundation, and it was like translucent light, like natural ivory, classic ivory. And
porcelain.
Now, porcelain.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, wow, this is not at all like my skin tone.
Yeah.
And so, there was less available. I think there's more available now in terms of like diversity in skin tone, but also that's also about like socialization, right? Like as kids of color, like being told that lighter skin was more desirable or whatever. And if you're a brown goth kid,
when I was in middle school, like that was my whole staple, is like I would put eyeliner in my like under eyelid. I would do really dark lipstick. Lipstick's always been my staple. Like this is kind of like eyeliner. Mine for me has always been like a very bold lip color. And so even then, like I would wear a lot of dark lipsticks and I would feel very comfortable and I would really like it because it felt like I was expressing parts of myself that I couldn't in my personality. And I would definitely get made fun of a lot for that, because it would just be, why do you look like that? Why are you so like grunge? You're intimidating, stuff like that. I don't know.
Man, those comments really get you. I remember one time I tried to wear yellow lipstick, and someone said I looked like I was wearing like when you put two Pringles together, it looked like duck lips, kind of.
Like
someone said I had Pringle lips.
Oh my god.
Wow, it's probably too that person wasn't even trying to be mean, and sometimes it's like just that one little thing that someone says on the wrong day.
Yeah.
And then it's like 15 years later and we can't stop thinking about our Pringle lips.
Just never wear that color again.
I still have it. I just have never touched it since.
Yeah.
But this conversation has me thinking about like my next question, like who was like your inspiration? Like did you watch any people, like any videos, any influencers when like starting makeup, and like how did the process go for you when you started makeup?
Well, I remember like my parents were absolutely against it. Like my parents were like, you don't need makeup, there's no need to wear makeup, especially my dad. He was just like, what do you need that for? And my mom, she was like my biggest inspiration because she would wear makeup and I would want to look like her, and she would work for a makeup company. She worked for Dior, and so she's a whole ass makeup artist, and so I would be like, Mom, can you do my makeup? And she'd be like, no, like you don't need makeup. I'd be like, Mom, can you teach me how to do like an eyeshadow look or something? And she'd be like, no, you don't need makeup. So it would be really frustrating because I'd be like, I have this source that could really teach me all that I need to know, but they're not willing, so I taught myself. And that was like definitely the phase where like YouTube beauty gurus were coming out. And so like Manny MUA and like Nikita Dragon and like the other girl that just got married, and she was on Ellen, and Ellen was hella mean to her.
Oh, Nikki Tutorials.
Nikki Tutorials.
Yep.
Yeah, like all of that. Jeffree Star. Like
Yeah.
I just watched. I learned from YouTube and just practicing, just trial and error, practicing on myself and seeing what I like, what I don't like. But also at the same time, it was really hard having this external force of my parents being like, "You look so weird. You don't need that. Why do you do that to yourself?" And it's just like, yeah.
I totally relate with that because my mom
Mhm.
was always like, "No, you don't need makeup," and
Yeah.
I would dabble into her blush like when she wasn't looking, and
Yeah.
I don't know, she just wasn't really supportive in me learning makeup, so I had to teach myself. And oh my god, I went through so many Q-tips trying to do eyeliner,
Yeah.
but now it's perfected.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just been like a whole process, and like influencers on Instagram definitely like kind of helped me, like just seeing like colorful eyeshadow looks and like being like, I want to do that on myself, you know?
Mhm.
But yeah, I totally see where you're coming from.
My like whole story is pretty much the same as yours, Sadaf, because
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about like it's a weird form of socialization where you're gonna tell me like all of these roles that I should fulfill as a woman, but then you're not gonna let me be expressive as one. And I think that's like really strange because I know this is the same way for me where my mom would, teach me how to clean properly, teach me how to cook properly, how to dress properly and modestly.
Mhm.
And then when it came to just wanting to add a little bit of, accent to my eyes or color to my lips, suddenly that became a thing where like I'm trying to do it to cater to guys.
Yeah.
And my dad was livid. He hated when my mom first started letting me wear makeup. My mom was like okay with it. She bought me makeup. She would just tell me to go light with it, but my dad hated it. And I remember there was this like Bratz makeup kit that my mom bought for me, and I actually like packed it over so that I could go over to my dad's house and use it to get ready for school. He literally was like livid. He told me that I shouldn't be wearing makeup at my age, that I have no need for it. And it's always like connected to this thing of your beauty is so natural. Why do you need that? And it's like I'm not trying to be more attractive or more beautiful, and especially not for other people. It's like a confidence booster for me. It's just another layer of like adding earrings or wearing shoes. It's like the same thing.
Yeah.
And my dad literally took the Bratz makeup kit and hid it away in like this little safe that he had so that I couldn't use it anymore. And he was like, "You're not allowed to use this, and you're not gonna have it back until you're like 20." And I was
Did you
like,
get it back?
I stole it back, yes. I stole it back and I put it in my backpack and I didn't use it until I went back over to my mom's and I was like, you need to talk to dad because he's not letting me wear makeup and I just want to be fun. And that was it.
It's weird. I feel like now this is the third time, right, where now I'm mentioning socialization. So the third time that it's come up. And I think that's like such a big part of what's going on here, like when negotiating with our parents, and it's like if you were socialized as a woman, there's this expectation to be perfect. Like you have to know how to dress yourself, how to cook, how to serve a man, right? Like, but the minute you try to do something for yourself, it's seen as a threat or as slutty or, and it's like, we want you to be sexy, but not slutty, right? You got to be classy, but not boring.
Yeah.
This like weird binary like juxtaposition when most of us are like swimming this gray space somewhere of like wanting to just do the thing that we want to do and be who we are. Yeah. It reminds me of a controlling boyfriend. I feel like dads are like essentially like an older version of a controlling boyfriend. Because I had a boyfriend too who was like, why do you always wear your wings so big? Like, it would be cute if you wore a more natural look.
Oof.
It's like, where does that even come from? This
Yeah.
idea that like you would be so much more beautiful if you just wore your makeup naturally.
Now, I remember
It was even
my
naturally.
my boyfriend would get, well, he's my ex now, but he would get like really upset when I would wear lipstick because he didn't want it on himself. And he'd be like, well, now I can't kiss you. So like, why do you even wear that? What do you need it for? And it felt weird. Like, I'm like, I have to change myself as an object for you to be able to use instead of being like, that's a beautiful lip color on you. It felt weird.
Also, guys have this like just this negative perspective on makeup where they feel like women use makeup to catfish,
Yeah.
and they feel like they're like lied to, like after like they meet someone and then they see the person like without makeup, they'll feel some type of way, and they'll project that anger and be like, you kind of like you lied to me basically about who you are.
That whole trend of like take your girlfriend swimming on
Exactly.
Swimming on the first date.
Yeah.
How she really looks like.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Gross.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Nasty.
Very.
I'll just share of like where I learned to do makeup. I mentioned earlier that like I learned with my cousins who are all cholas, and I'm a little older than y'all, so I didn't grow up in the era of YouTube sensations. But I did grow up kind of idolizing like the women in my family in photos. There was a whole like movement in Southern California called the Zoot Suits. You may have heard of it. It was in the 60s and 70s, and it's like essentially like cholo aesthetic in Southern California as a form of resistance. And so the really big pants, the high-waisted, the suspenders, the like, really sharp like button up with the bow ties on men and women.
Yeah.
With the pork pie hats, the big like my mom used to call it the abanico hair, which is like the fan hair. This was during the era of Aquanet. I don't know if you know about Aquanet, but it was a 90s brand of hairspray that was phased out because it had like every toxic ingredient ever in it. But that shit made your hair so big. So yeah, I definitely grew up idolizing these like older cousins and aunts, who were like in their 40s at the time and were repping this like fierce face at the family parties, and wanting so badly to just learn how to do that. And so, yeah, I loved getting to be in the room when my cousins at like 15 to 17 were getting ready to go on a date, or like, getting ready to go cruising. That was the thing that people did. People still do that now. Cruising on Federal is really popular.
Yeah.
It still happens, right? The lowriders are out. The dudes are looking sharp. The ladies are looking good.
Yep.
The queers are probably hiding the fact that they're queer. Out of intimidation, like I did when I was 13. And so, yeah, cruising culture was really big in my family, and lowrider culture in particular. And so that entire aesthetic was like, man, I was obsessed with it. Like the big hoops, the big wings, the like really ugly eyebrows.
The eyebrows.
Yeah, but I learned to master a liquid brush, which a lot of people are scared of.
Yeah.
A liquid brush, but if you can master a liquid brush,
You can do anything. Easy.
I got a cough. Cool, sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. We can continue.
I lost my Sorry. Cut it out. Okay. Another question I had was, what are your thoughts on like cultural appropriation in makeup styles, like the fox eye trend, like giving a smaller look to like mimic the eyes of slanted like Asian eyes, for example. Like, what are your thoughts on those types of things?
For me, it's like a difficult line for me because I don't know. For me, sometimes being light skinned, so kind of being in between black and white, I always felt like I have to stick to one or the other. And so it was like if I wanted braids, for instance, that would be one of those areas where I'd be like, am I black enough? And that's how I felt, because it's like different areas of my life and identity were kind of conflicting with each other. Like, am I allowed to wear that light of like a red lip color? Because that sort of really, vibrant red lip was also a staple of somebody with more fair skin. And so I don't know, it kind of for me has a sort of gray area where it's like, if you're doing it for self-expression, if it's a part of your identity, and you're not really doing it to like alter yourself to present that identity when you're not, then I think it's okay. But if you're almost doing it to steal an aspect of a culture or to almost put out the impression of like, oh yeah, I'm totally like that, then that's where stuff like the fox eye trend specifically could get really ugly. And especially when it comes from areas of like bullying, because I know a lot of people who have natural eyes like that and natural freckles and things like that. Like they used to get bullied for that, made fun of for that.
Yeah.
And then seeing people start to make it this sort of trend, and it's like, it's not necessarily a trend, it's something that is natural and that people are born with. That's where it becomes kind of crossing that border over from expression to appropriation.
I agree with you that line is very fine and
Yeah.
gray, right? Do y'all remember when Orange is the New Black came out?
Yes.
And I don't know if it was Alex's character, the bitch with the wings on the show. And all of a sudden, everyone was repping wings all over the internet, and white women in particular, right? It was like all of a sudden a trend. It was like, all in the magazines, on the social media. And I remember there being a big discourse in Chicana communities about like, yeah, that like, yo, some of us have been repping wings since high school, like big hoops. That's another thing, right? Where it's like, big hoops have been around for Black and brown femmes forever. Right? But the minute someone who is white and conventionally attractive or whatever, a social media influencer, reps a hoop, it's like, oh, hoops. And so yeah, I definitely remember being a little bit offended at that show, but also the sort of growing community of white women who just wanted to emulate that wing without knowing the history. And so I don't know, as I'm talking, I'm sort of like, where do I stand on this? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I'm not against people repping a wing if they, culturally don't know where it comes from. I don't know, it's weird. It's like I want people to do what they want.
Exactly.
That's what I keep thinking of, is like the beauty of makeup is the fact that you can manipulate yourself in so many different ways and express yourself in so many different ways. That's why it's just such a fine line of like, how does that expression turn into appropriation?
Right.
Like the Chola lips, like I keep thinking about that. Is like I love that look and I want to do it so bad. But internally I would feel some type of way stepping out with Chola lips. Because I don't identify, with that. So it's just like an aesthetic thing. Like it looks so pretty that I want it. But the history of it is like, and also I don't think a lot of people, as they're doing their makeup, will take the time to be like, I wonder if there's like any background to this. Like, I wonder if there's any history to this. Because they're just doing their makeup and they're like, I like how that looks. And they go with it.
I think it's like, another thing that plays a big role in it is this idea of gatekeeping almost.
Yes.
Because like I was saying, like with stuff like braids, that could be a form of self-expression. Braids, cornrows, things like that. And when it comes to doing that with your makeup, for instance, like I don't believe that anybody who starts stepping into that goth sort of look with their makeup is sitting there thinking, well, where did this come from? When did this goth turn about? Like when did it become popular? I don't think that that's what people are concerned about, but I also think that that's really important. If you think it looks good on you, there's a reason why certain people and certain groups thought it looked good on them and why it was part of even like movements. And I just think it might make it more impactful for you if that's the type of makeup you want to go with, to try and learn about it. And I also think it's not popularized to know the history behind what you're doing, why you're doing it.
Yeah,
That might be
definitely.
another aspect as to why people can't differentiate between the line of expression and appropriation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And maybe before, like, I feel like before TikTok or social media, like with the beauty communities coming out and like just so many, you just scroll and see so
Yeah.
many looks
Mhm.
and it's just so much inspiration where like you're just like, I see that, I want that, and I'll do it. Whereas before, I feel like maybe you learned makeup through family or an actual makeup artist or someone who
Right.
would tell you like, oh, back in the day, this
Or
was,
even
this is what
experimentation.
happened, this is what that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just internet. People have access to like so many things and
Yeah.
they just see it and they want it. So they can do it.
I think about too I thought about this with your clown makeup, like about how like even clown makeup probably has a history,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
and I think
Yeah.
of the Crystal Method in Drag Race. I don't know if you're familiar with Drag Race, but she was a contestant on season 12 or 13 and was like kind of like given some really harsh feedback about her makeup. She prides herself on doing clown makeup. And talked about how clown makeup for her was like in drag particularly was a way to push back on like reinforcing like traditional standards of beauty even in drag.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, like that's
Right.
so cool, you
Yeah,
know,
it is.
and how inspiring that is for other people who want to go out and do clown makeup. And yeah, that piece of like not knowing the history, and I don't know, what is our responsibility even of like doing that research? I don't know, it's weird. So I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this topic because it's like, you know, I would never feel any kind of way about you rocking that lip,
Right.
Yeah.
but I would on someone else,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, and I know that I know you, and so
That's
I
funny
trust
because
you,
I
right?
literally had that conversation with Daisy. Was it you and Daisy or Ari and Daisy? And Daisy was like, I'd be cool with you doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, but yeah, because you know me.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if I'm
Right.
walking out in public and someone doesn't know me, they will interpret it in a whole different way. I feel like.
Yeah, they might think you're Chicana.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
another thing,
Yeah.
like approaching you and kind of like assuming things about you because of that aspect
Right,
of how you
right.
look.
Right.
But once again, and this is probably like the 18th time we're going to bring it up, but I think that is so important in socialization. We're sitting there and we're looking at someone's race, and then we're making the association to their makeup, and then we're making the association to their identity, and then all of that comes to play with like, well, for instance, like you're white. And then, should you even be wearing that? And then there comes the gatekeeping of like, well, do you know anything about it? That might, you know, I claim that, and I don't know if you should. And then it just all comes into like what you see and how you have been socialized to feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, like you're sitting here and saying, you know, you have reluctance to being like, you know, should I even be saying this? Or is it even appropriation? Because it just comes with having to acknowledge race, culture, ethnicity, and even at times gender identity. Because you almost feel like there's so much power between how you're expressing yourself and then that form of expression that you want people to know about it, but at the same time, if we were to just dumb it all the way down to it's just expression, it's just makeup, then would you even really have any of those questions or those defenses about other people wearing it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. The one thing I would say to maybe just gently push back is that it's not just makeup,
Yeah.
right? It's like not just makeup. It's a little more loaded than that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I feel stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That like my wings for me aren't just. It's not just makeup.
Yeah.
It's an armor.
Yeah.
You know. I don't know. What do you think, Brooke?
It was hard for me to think about this too. Honestly, I just feel like if it's along the lines of altering how you look to look like a certain community, I feel like that might be where, you know, you might want to reevaluate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really hard because it is expression, but it's not just makeup. That it's a part of you. It's part of your culture if that's what it is. And so, I don't know. I totally agree with all of what you guys said too. You guys said a lot.
Definitely, I agree with makeup being armor. Like that reminds me of I used to have super long hair, and the day that I decided I was gonna cut it, I did my makeup and I did like spiky eyebrows and I did a fat wing, and like I was just that was just like my armor of like, okay, I'm ready to face myself, like I'm ready to do this. And then I just shaved my head and like it was wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, makeup can just be so powerful in like in giving you that confidence that you need to do something, or just I don't know, it's just like it is definitely way more than just makeup.
Yeah.
And that's the empowering, educational, knowledgeable aspect of it. As long as you know where it's from and you're not trying to steal, you know, from other cultures. What is it called? Being like a culture vulture.
Right.
As long as you're not doing that and you're actually thinking about the implications of what you're doing with your makeup. I mean, I'd say if you have doubt about putting it on for all these various like intersectional reasons, then maybe just look it up.
Yeah.
You know, just
If
question
you're
it a little.
asking yourself, right?
Myself, I would look it up.
Like the whole world is
Yeah.
at everybody's fingertips. So if you really want to know, and if you really like that, and it does make you feel more powerful, or it does help you put that armor up and build yourself up, then just educate yourself on the, you know, actual aspects behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. When you said culture vulture, I immediately thought of Gwen Stefani.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
She's been regarded for having like on point makeup, on point aesthetic.
Yeah.
You know, but like literally has robbed from every single culture. Which is wild to me. And yes, if you're considering whether or not you should put that makeup on, just think of Gwen Stefani.
Think of Gwen Stefani.
Think
of what not to do.
Oh boy. Another question I did have was, how has makeup influenced how you like perceive yourself and how society has an influence on beauty culture?
I guess I'm gonna start again. For me, I am kind of really loving this new turnaround of almost going back in time and breaking down like the gendered aspects of makeup. Like for some reason, I don't know where it happened in history, and I probably also have to look that up, but it's like makeup became a thing for only women when it originally was for not just royalty but men. Even things that we wear were for men originally. And so that's like where it comes into play of being a form of empowerment, a form of expression. You know, I feel like makeup has started to have its turnaround of being more of an art form and more of something that helps people build themselves up than something that's just like for, like Netty was saying, for conventionally attractive people or for women to be able to present themselves to others.
I really love that social media has I don't know. I'm just digging on when I see makeup accounts and stuff on my timeline or whatever, I'm starting to see more like mask presenting people putting on eyelashes and like I'm starting to see that, you know, in social media in a way that feels so cool. Because you're right, like makeup was not really gendered for a long time, as was holding hands or like all these other things.
I think all of it was just a class thing to begin with, and then it altered somehow into a gender thing.
Right. Yeah. But I love these days, like being able to just scroll through my timeline and see the diversity in skin tones who are fucking around with makeup and also gender. People of different genders messing around with makeup. I was on a plus size stockings website earlier this morning because I was looking for stockings and someone was like, oh, you should check out this brand. And I went to their website and they had mask and femme presenting people wearing these stockings. And I was just like, that is so hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I feel really seen right now. And so I think that's really cool. I think the evolution of makeup I think is really awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, like that is so hot, because for me I think that like honestly anyone wearing makeup or using makeup as a form of expression or kind of like enhancing their features, to me, like that's attractive regardless of who it's on, because it's just this other art form, and I love to see people being able to be comfortable enough with themselves to experiment with that and to understand that.
I completely agree.
I've also been seeing like people like not wearing foundation, like embracing their beauty marks and like their naturalness, and I've been trying to like kind of adapt that for myself, because that's something I've been totally struggling with since high school, wearing foundation every day to hide those flaws, those pimples. And so I've been trying to work on that this year and not wear as much foundation and just, mess around with my eyes more.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's been super cool to see that and like, try to, I don't know, embrace my own natural beauty a little bit without feeling ashamed and having to hide it in makeup. But yeah.
What was the question? I forgot the question.
How has makeup influenced how you perceive yourself and how society has an influence on beauty culture?
It's for me. It's been a journey of self-love, because at first I started using makeup to hide from myself, but now I use makeup to enhance the features I have, and it's a completely different thing of I'm not trying to hide anything I have. If anything, I'm trying to accentuate some features of my face. And the whole natural no makeup look, I feel like that's going on right now. That's also helped me with like accepting my skin and like not wearing foundation so much. I've struggled with my skin for so long, like literally since like 6th grade. So it's been a huge shift to like not wear foundation anymore and like accept it. It's like hard. It's very hard.
It's so hard.
But yeah, it's just very interesting to see like the journey that makeup takes you on. Because now I feel like I'm reaching a point of just purely experimenting with like editorial looks and like avant-garde looks, and like
I have been enjoying your makeup.
I love that shiny eyeshadow you do.
That like wild wing on so good.
Yeah, so
yeah, it's like the minute you decide that your makeup is not for other people and just for yourself.
Yes.
Game changer.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Game changer. And everyone's on a different journey.
Yeah.
And it reaches us at a different time.
Yes. That was the turning point for me, was like, I don't need to wear makeup to please other people, to hide, like Brooke was saying, to hide my features, to be more socially accepted. And once I got to that point, like it became that period of experimentation, because I'm the same. I still struggle a lot with my skin and like my skincare routine and everything like that is almost like a religious thing for me.
Yeah.
Because I do like my natural skin, and I stopped wearing foundation because I realized it made me personally hate my natural skin. And so for me that whole journey has always been kind of up and down. I use makeup to almost display on the outside how I feel on the inside.
Yeah.
Put my personality outward for other people to see. So, like when I'm wearing more goth-based makeup, more natural makeup, more grunge makeup, that sort of thing for me is just like, this is kind of who I'm feeling like on the inside. And I do find it funny when it intimidates people because, I look all crazy and then they come up to me and I'm like, oh, hi. It's really different, especially because people would be like, you look very intimidating when I would put on darker makeup or I would wear a little bit more. When in reality, I'm just like a really nice person. Yeah. And it's just like expressing in the ways that I can through differences of like color and the lines on my face and utilizing my natural features on top of what I can enhance or change, and to give people the perception of like, this is part of who I am and I'm expressing it today.
Okay, my kind of last-ish question was like if you had any facts about makeup you wanted to bring up, or like any thoughts about affordability when it comes to certain products also.
I'm a makeup artist for Bobbi Brown, And so when I started working for Bobbi Brown, I just did a bunch of research to learn more about her because she's just this white lady from New York, you know. And so
It's funny. I was thinking about the '90s hip
the
hop.
singer. I know.
I was like, wow,
I
Bobbi Brown's a makeup artist.
No, Bobbi Brown, the makeup artist, is just this little white lady, and her whole brand, honestly, was one of the first brands to include deeper skin tones. When she was a makeup artist in like the 80s and 90s, back then, when black or brown models would be used for shoots, whenever any makeup would be done on them, would be very aggressive, colorful, like neon makeup, like super hot pink lips and like hot pink blush, and like that's the only looks you would see on like black and brown skin tone models.
Mhm.
But with Bobbi Brown, she specifically started her brand with 10 lipsticks that were 10 shades of nude to include every nude, I don't know, lip that there is. And she was also one of the first lines to have such an extensive foundation range. She started with 42 shades, which is like a lot.
Wow.
When you think about it. To
yeah.
start, yeah, it's a lot. So it was really interesting to learn the history of makeup in that sense of like from her brand. But yeah, I always keep that in mind, that makeup, like you mentioned, has always been catered towards more lighter skinned people. And so I feel like I've personally stayed working for Bobbi Brown because they're more inclusive with their shade range and their makeup and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a little history I have.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me think of like the Fenty effect. Or
Yes, exactly,
yeah,
absolutely.
When Rihanna, her Fenty beauty line, I think they released like 50 foundation shades.
Yep.
And that was like huge.
And then after Fenty dropped all the foundation shades, Beauty Blender, do you remember that? Beauty Blender tried to drop foundations,
Yeah.
and their shade range was so bad.
Like this, it's like this nasty race for like who can be the most inclusive and
Yes.
diverse first.
Yes, absolutely.
When it's like, just do that anyways.
Yeah,
'cause that's
exactly.
just
Do
we're
it.
people.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're all just
Yeah.
And then you're like trying on these supposedly inclusive shades, and I'm sometimes I'm like, whose skin is this? Like, you know, it seems like, you know, like I'm like, who's in the room like creating these formulas?
Who's having these
Absolutely.
discussions. Like, what shades are we using? I know for me, for a long time, I would either get shades that were like really, really orange, just like vibrant orange, when it's like, okay, that's not, you lied to me. And then it would go from that to just being like really red. And then I would look like I'm suffering a heat stroke or something with foundation because I just couldn't get the correct shade for myself. And it would be advertised. I'd try it on my wrist, like all of them say when you're doing your little techniques. And oh my God, when it was translated to my face, it would just be atrocious.
Also, you can't realistically try it on your wrist
Yeah.
because your wrist is not the same.
It's not. And
Skin
everybody's
tone
always like, it's the lightest part, so try it there.
No.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
If you want your foundation to match, it has to match your forehead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? It's like you know, the like try it on your wrist. I mean, maybe on the outside of your wrist, but like my face gets the most sunlight.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so
It's not uniform.
It's
all across.
Yeah.
The shade is not uniform.
Yeah. Also, talking about affordability and like price range, like working at Bobbi Brown has been so insane because it's a luxury makeup brand. So like their skincare products, like if you buy a moisturizer, it's like $110, and their foundations are like $65, $75. And it's really interesting seeing parents bring their kids to the department or to the counter, and they'll be like, oh, this is my daughter, she's 12, she's never worn makeup, I want her to start wearing makeup, can you show her what she can do? And like I'll show her like, oh, you should just put some mascara on, a lip balm, or like whatever, and then at the end the mom will buy everything and it'll be like $200-$300. And it just makes me think of when I was 12 or 13, learning makeup and like buying my own makeup from Walmart. Like, Wet and Wild, Elf, like mix,
my first
all of
makeup
that.
was a Bratz kit. Like, it
Yeah,
wasn't even, like,
yeah, exactly.
legitimate makeup. It was
Yeah.
literally designed and catered towards little girls. And so,
Exactly.
no, personally for me, when it comes to makeup, it is not about the brand name. It is not about, you know, how fancy it is. To me, it's just about how well it works for you
Yeah,
and if you know how to work it.
Yep.
Because almost all of my makeup, I can't think of a single product I have that's brand named. Almost all of my makeup comes from like Walgreens or Walmart or Target. And I mean, like I said, I love lip colors. So sometimes I might indulge myself with brand names. Like I'll go to Ulta and be like, I want the most expensive one.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think you need those to
I don't-
to do what you want to do with your
Yeah.
with your look.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like
It turns into a status thing once again.
it's
Like,
class.
what's the difference between a $32 Bobbi Brown mascara and a $7-8 L'Oreal mascara?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, it just.
Do you remember how the Mac store used to be like, oh, buy $45 worth of product and we'll do your makeup for free. I don't know if Mac still offers that, but there was a while that they were. And one time I was like, ooh, I want to do this. And I went and I got one foundation and one eyeliner pencil, and it was like $68.
Yeah.
And so like I still ended up paying like
Yeah.
money out of pocket, you know. So I was like, oh, this thing that this deal that you're selling is really not that accessible at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
it's kind of a scam because I agree. Most of my makeup is also from Walgreens or a pharmacy. I have a really good friend who, for their birthday last year, they wanted to have a femme day. And so we all got together around my dinner table and everybody brought their makeup, and they're non-binary and they're just beginning to sort of play around with makeup. And so everyone was really excited. And so my besties, they take up like a massive, of like, they've got their like mirrors and their palettes, like a whole stack of palettes and like a whole stack of like brushes and like, all this stuff. And like, here I am with my e.l.f. eyeliner brush. I've got like my one foundation. I've got my one CoverGirl eye pencil.
I've got 4 products to my name, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
Looking like a queen.
So, yes, we're spending literally the entire afternoon doing our makeup, and it's like 30 minutes in, and I'm like, I'm done. And I actually loved that day because we ended up having a conversation about brands, and I learned a lot, even as someone who wears a lot of makeup. I learned a lot about makeup that day and about brands and the capitalism behind makeup. Really. It's an industry, right?
Really
It's like
profit
$1 billion
driven.
industry.
Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah.
It really is. And so, I was excited, Brooke, when you invited us to have this convo, because I immediately was like, I am an e.l.f. stan all of the way
Two.
to the death.
I've been using e.l.f. since high school for my eyeliner, and I will stand by e.l.f.
Yeah.
until I die. It is so cheap, and it does its job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes people are like, oh, where did you, like I'll rock a pink wing or a red wing, and it's like, psh, Maybelline, $8.99,
Yeah.
Walgreens.
Yeah.
Sitting here mixing water with my being like, I can achieve the same look. I like to kind of like think about it and compare it to paint, because I like to do art.
Yeah.
And I don't buy like the most expensive name brand like paints and brushes and top of the market quality. No, I can do really, really good with the right technique and the right inspiration to create a masterpiece of my own with the cheapest paint I can find.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
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 Yo. Yes.
Crayola for
Basically.
makeup.
Yeah. It's really cool what you can do with makeup around just when you have a very little to spend.
Yeah.
And also
Mhm.
you have a lot to spend, you know. I've definitely indulged, like I've gotten some Lady Gaga makeup, some Fenty stuff. Even that, right, is a little bit still on the affordable.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the shadow sticks from Gaga, House of Gaga or whatever.
Mhm.
They're like $20 a shadow stick, which, you know, it's not your $3.99 elf at Walgreens, but it's also not your like $39.99. And it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes that mid grade. My roommates have gotten really obsessed with Il Maquillage. And they do that test. They both did it, and
It's
they
perfect.
nailed their foundation
Yeah, my
color.
mom did the same
I
thing.
was really impressed.
Yeah.
I saw them on a Snapchat ad, and I was like, well, if I get, hacked or whatever. And I did it for concealer, and it was perfect. I just haven't done a refill. I have my e.l.f. one now, but
Mhm.
I definitely want to do that again. It's like they got my shade perfectly.
Yeah.
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 Not a note on affordability, but a note on capacity, which I think
Yeah.
is related,
Yeah.
right? Which is related to class and also just related to our like lived experiences, who we are. But
Mhm.
for me, I'm always inspired by all of y'all's makeup looks and by all of my friends. Like my best friends, I told you, like literally spend hours putting on their face. And at the end of the day, I will sacrifice my face for the sake of other things, like my fashion or, those kinds of things. And I just, there's this part of me that is like, Netty, you should stop being so lazy about your face. And that's like the one thing that I wish that I had a little bit more time and commitment to do in the morning.
Yeah.
Is, when I try really hard, I will rock like a multi eyeshadow with a multicolored wing with a lip ombre or whatever. But I just don't have the time, right? And that's another thing that I think is a piece to the whole makeup conversation that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
Which is that it takes time. Like you have to be willing to spend 2 hours,
Yeah.
on your face. And unfortunately, sometimes people are working 2 or 3 jobs, like going to school, raising kids, and it's just not accessible sometimes in the way that we would want it, just like it's not financially accessible.
Yeah.
And that's something that I wish we were a little bit more honest with each other about on the internet, that like, hey, do you like this look? It took me 3 hours.
Yeah.
Those time-lapse videos, they're misleading.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even on that though, like I'd also like to say that it should be like normalized, because a lot of people will be like, oh my god, I can't believe you spent that much time doing your makeup. I could never. When it's just like, okay, if you don't want to do that, then you don't have to do that. But that person taking time to themselves to, perfect what they want for themselves is perfectly okay. And I don't know why sorry. And I don't know why it's always seen as like, oh my god, girls take forever getting ready because of so and so. And I don't know. It's literally just, it's the same as taking time to put on an outfit.
It's the same as taking time to read a book.
Taking time to take a shower. Like, I don't know why there's stigma around taking time to put on makeup when it's literally like the same thing. And if it's not for you, it's not. And if you have the time to do it, then good for you. Do it.
Yeah.
People love to be judgmental assholes, generally speaking, about a lot of things.
Comes from jealousy too, so
it kind of does.
Maybe reflects on like why you're so upset that somebody else had the time
Right.
to be able to do that.
This also reminds me of this is getting a little off topic, Brooke, so if you want to like close this out, please do so. But it reminds me of the anti-selfie movement. They were like mostly driven by men. No surprise there. Right? But like, the selfie angle being unrealistic, the like the filter game, the editing game, and like, then there was a movement of like selfies for self-care, and like it reminds me of this conversation is people always want to come for you when you want to just do things for your own self. It's like, yo, so what? I look good in this selfie.
Exactly.
I look good in this 3-hour phase. Why are you coming for me?
Yeah.
Literally. I also I wanted to talk about how the pandemic also played such a big part in people not wearing makeup anymore.
Yeah.
And I also feel like some see it as a negative. I personally see it as a positive because gave it gave people who don't want to spend that time in the morning doing their makeup to just go to work to feel presentable to not do that if they don't want
Like
to.
an excuse.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so like working at Bobby and like having sit downs again where like because of the pandemic we couldn't do makeovers anymore and we couldn't touch people's faces and stuff, but now we can. And I'll be doing makeovers and these ladies will be telling me like, oh, I haven't worn any makeup for 2 years and I honestly feel so liberated.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Like it's makeup is also that thing of I feel like there's a stigma of if you're a woman or femme presenting, then you have to wear some type of makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't. And I feel like the pandemic helped some people accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy too, bringing up the pandemic, because that like almost made me emotional because I don't know why I didn't think about it. I just like blocked it out. Trauma just blocked it out.
Yeah.
But no, I was literally forced to confront the fact that I didn't have any actual reason to put on makeup.
Yeah.
And then I had to get comfortable with like I don't need a reason to put on makeup. I can put it on in the house if I want to.
Yeah.
And then like it was a whole other thing of like in the beginning it was foundation and confronting my skin, and then it just became this idea of like I feel beautiful when I get the opportunity to like really dress myself up. Because it was almost like you deserve it. Like I deserve the ability to feel fancy and classy when I want to, and to go over the top when I want to. And during the pandemic, I had, in my opinion, like no actual reason to do that. So like it gave people the excuse not to have to, but then it gave me no excuse to actually go out and put on makeup. And then it became this whole other confrontation with myself again of like, you know, don't feel ugly because you can't put it on. And, you know, providing myself the opportunity and time and permission to know like you don't need a reason to look good almost.
This is what I love about makeup. Like it's such a different vibe for different people. Like we had the exact opposite experience in the pandemic.
Yeah.
My roommates and I watched the entirety of Drag Race because what else are you doing in lockdown? You know what I mean? Like you're literally just watching TV. And so all of a sudden we're doing our makeup in the living room while watching Drag Race. I shaved off most of my eyebrows. I was like, oh, what can I do here?
That was another thing. It was the perfect time to experiment.
Yes.
That's when I did my eyebrow split for the first time. I was like, you know what? I'm bleaching my hair. I'm gonna put a little bleach on my eyebrow and see what an eyebrow split would look like. It was, I'm sorry, that was like the perfect time to start experimenting because you had no reason to be like, oh, but I have this tomorrow, or oh, I have to do this in a week. Like you could just do whatever.
I also did, like, I shaved off the ends of my eyebrows for like the first time. I was like, oh my god, I can finally like mess around with like different eyebrow looks because like I don't have anywhere else to go.
Yes.
Exactly.
I was repping some Spock from Star Trek brows for a little while. Because I was like, what else am I doing?
Exactly.
But I love that. I love the multiple pandemic experiences around makeup. It's cool.
Yeah.
Well, this was a great conversation, guys. I really appreciate you being here. I think it's time to close out, right?
Right.
Thank you for joining us for another Get a Hold of Yourself podcast episode. We hope to see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for having us, Brooke.
Bye. Thanks,
Thank you.